From my character's point of view, I play Dr. Sean Murphy, and he is a young surgeon who relocates from his quiet country life to, I guess, the big smoke, to San Jose to join as a surgical resident this prestigious hospital there. And he happens to have savant syndrome. He also happens to have autism. And this immediately sparks a debate between the powers that be at the hospital as to whether Sean should be allowed into the workplace. And thankfully he is. And so by the end of the episode, it's sort of set up for him joining on and becoming a surgeon there. The two primary reasons were the opportunity to work with David Shaw and his amazing script and the fascinating character that I got to play. I love David's work. I think what I love most about his writing, perhaps, is the way in which he finds there's always a lightness to it, there's a subtlety to it, but at the same time he manages to access those deeper, more emotional moments. It's never melodramatic, but the drama and the emotion is certainly there. And in terms of Sean, I think he is a character that we all feel responsible for in terms of representing him as authentically as possible. The first thing that you need to point out is the fact that Sean can never represent everyone with autism. It would be a silly and offensive thing to suggest that this one singular individual is going to be representative of a plethora of people who are also individuals and different. In the same way that if you had a neurotypical lead of a show, that person is never going to represent everyone who's neurotypical in the world. At the same time, of course, we want to lend authenticity to it. And I think what's been useful for all of us is the discussions that we've had with various experts about autism, and individually, the research that I've done in terms of literature that I've read or documentaries that I've seen, and discussions with people who are close to me who deal with autism on a daily basis. I think there's an immediate challenge that's obvious in trying to play someone with autism and do so as lovingly and caringly and humbly as possible. And I think there's also another challenge in now becoming aware of the fact that we are all out there speaking about a subject and being involved in a dialogue that you want to make sure you don't misspeak. And I think we're all doing it from the right place. We all have good hearts, and I guess you hope that comes across. I love David Shaw. He's, obviously I'm incredibly lucky to be working for him. I guess that's the overriding emotion. But he's such a true collaborator. I think he would have every right to be somewhat dictatorial, having run such a successful medical drama for so many years and now be doing a new one. But he's very open to discussion and collaboration, and is the best leader we could imagine.
It's really a show about how someone who is facing certain challenges is able to begin the process of overcoming them, and then becoming a contributing and productive member of the community and of society as a whole. So to me, it's universal in many ways, because anyone could have, any one of us could have obstacles that keep us from not only doing what we want, but doing something beneficial for everyone else. And whether it's autism, or whether it's physical challenge, or another psychological challenge, or poverty, whatever it is, I think we root for people who are capable, given the opportunity, to rise up. The relationship that my character, Dr. Glassman, has with Sean the young doctor, flashes back to when they met, and there's a history of someone kind of seeing an opportunity to help a kid who's in trouble. And I can't imagine anything more powerful in life than kind of an angel coming to bring some light at a point in your life that's very dark. I think it's going to communicate to people who are on the spectrum and people who are not on the spectrum. And one of the ways it can be helpful or effective is if someone who is challenged by autism sees, even fictionally, someone who's similar to them who is overcoming those obstacles. And to see the determination with which this character does that might be inspiring. Well, he's very pleasant, and he's very talented. And he literally brings 0 issues to the table in a good way, so that we just do it and enjoy doing it. And that's great. You know, so what it's it's working with somebody who's feels like he's been doing this for 30 years, you know, and he knows what he's doing, and it's fun to work with actors like that. David's been great, and you know, because I like to contribute in multiple facets of production, make suggestions, and whether it's dialogue or whether it's shot selection or the way the scene moves physically. And I had that talk with David before we started working, and he's been very open and accepting, and we're on a really good start, because I like oppositional points of view, and sometimes he'll go, no, I need it to be this way, and I'll go, okay, yeah, you're right. And that's the beginning of a good working relationship.
The Good Doctor's a medical show, and at the epicenter of it, it's about a young doctor called Sean Murphy, who is a doctor with autism, and it's about his sort of entrance into the hospital and how he navigates his way through the politics of, you know, the different areas of the hospital, people that may sort of doubt him and think that he can't do his job, and sort of socially navigating the sort of social side of, you know, communicating with staff members and patients. And then within that, so he's obviously the lead, and then within that, it's, you know, all of the other doctors and their lives and how they deal with the day-to-day of surgery. And my character, Claire, is a young resident surgeon, and she immediately, I think, connects with Sean and realizes that he is special and intelligent and brilliant and should be given a chance. For me, the character of Claire really jumped out. You know, she's this sort of really three-dimensional, flawed, layered, fascinating woman that often you don't, you know, I read so many scripts, and often you don't get that with female roles. It was really refreshing. You know, she's a brilliant surgeon. She works really hard. She wants to, you know, do the best job that she can do, and she has a boss who is tough on her, and she therefore feels she needs to be tough. So she has a tough side to her, but then on the other hand, she has a huge heart and empathizes a lot with the patients, and that huge heart may sometimes get her in trouble because she maybe gets too emotionally involved in a situation and her judgment's clouded. And then on the other side, she's maybe a bit closed off in personal relationships. So she's this sort of ball of contradictions, which is, from an acting point of view, just like a dream, you know, to mine those different levels is, yeah, why I kind of do the job to get a role like this. Freddie's just brilliant. He's so intelligent and generous and warm. You know, I've sort of known his work for a while, Bates Motel. I was so excited to work with him because he's just such a phenomenal actor. And then actually, you know, getting to work with him, he's very, very giving as a performer, you know. Like it's always about, you know, serving the scene and making sure that, you know, each actor is happy, and, you know, it's a collaborative process, and that's so refreshing and lovely, and he's great. This idea of somebody with a difference trying to fit in, and, you know, coming from being new in a situation, coming from a place that, you know, Sean Murphy comes from a small town, apart from the fact that he is a doctor with autism, you know, he's a sort of a fish out of water, this idea of, you know, trying to fit in, and then on top of that, he has his autism to deal with, and the fact that people will discriminate and do discriminate against him, you know, and that's really interesting. That's, I guess, a really interesting kind of idea to look at. I think that what David Shaw is trying to do is, you know, is to sort of break that down and kind of like really bring an audience into a world of somebody with autism, you know, but who's brilliant and talented and deserves to be doing what he's doing. And I think that sets the show apart, because, I mean, I haven't seen that on television yet. The dialogue, opening up a dialogue about autism and having a lead role, you know, as a man with autism, I think is different.
Dr. Neil Melendez is a very highly decorated surgeon. Went to Stanford Medical School and numerous other fellowships and whatnot, but he's kind of a rock star surgeon who, very talented, very smart, but a very exacting and harsh boss. I think underlying is a lot of care. You know, he's not harsh for the sake of being harsh, but you're dealing with life and death, you know, and very severe situations that take a very cool head that prevails, you know, in these situations. And Melendez asks a lot out of his residents, you know, and included in that is Dr. Sean Murphy, Freddie Highmore's character, who's been placed under my care, and I don't really agree with the idea that he's there, and we have to kind of face off in the way we see things, and me trying to bring him around to a surgeon, and possibly him bringing me around to understanding and seeing the world a little differently. The main thing that attracted me to The Good Doctor, honestly, was the team behind it. From the get, when the script came across my desk, I saw the name David Shaw, and I know the pedigree of the kind of writer that he is, and the people he surrounded himself with. I was very interested in knowing that Daniel Dae Kim was intent on diversifying the show and have it reflect the real world outside. And more than anything, though, I have to say, was the writing. David Shaw's writing is just, it's got a lightness to it, an intelligence. It deals with heavy matters, but nothing's melodramatic. Nothing is a heavy hand. It's a very deft stroke that Mr. Shaw writes with, and I'd be remiss if I said that wasn't the very thing that drew me to the project to begin with. Audiences are going to be drawn to The Good Doctor really for the performances, honestly. It's a medical procedural show, and the interest that lies there, and we're going to show people a lot of things that they may not know or haven't seen before, and the surgeries that make doctors in real life go, wow, this is really interesting. So not only is there that angle, but it's a character-driven show, and we're going to see their lives outside of the hospital. We're going to see their lives with loved ones and how they interact with each other, even outside of the medical realm. But it's not your typical procedural by any means. And I think people are going to keep coming back because there's harsh realities that are portrayed and shown in the show, but there's an underlying heart that we want to see Dr. Sean Murphy succeed, but we're also realize the harsh realities that surround him. And I think people are going to tune in to root him on, but also people are going to tune in to root everyone else on in coming to understand him and where he comes from. When anybody asks me about what it's like to work with Freddie Highmore, I can't help but smile because in my close to 20 years in this business, is probably one of the most special people that I've gotten the opportunity to work with. Not only undeniable talent, a genius writer, director in his own right, but everything I think that people are going to love about Dr. Sean Murphy is what I love about Freddie Highmore, you know, and he's a very generous, giving actor. Let's be honest, he could be doing anything, and he chose The Good Doctor, and I think that says a lot right there. But we're the kind of cast, Freddie and everybody else, that when we're done, you know, when we're done filming, we want to hang out together, and that says a lot too, you know. So a very gentle, gentle spirit, good guy.
The Good Doctor is about a young surgeon named Dr. Sean Murphy who is a surgical resident who desperately wants to be a great surgeon, but is dealing with a complication, and that is the fact that he has autism. And he finds himself in a hospital where different folks have different opinions about whether he should actually even be allowed to be a surgeon or not. And that ecosystem of the hospital is where we find ourselves in the story. It's fantastically well written by David Shore, and I couldn't be more proud to be on it. My character on The Good Doctor is Dr. Marcus Andrews, and he is the chief of surgery. And the show begins with him being upset that the president of the hospital, over his objection, hired this young surgeon. He believes that the jury is out as to whether someone with autism should be a surgeon. And I think his journey over the series will be to learn things about Dr. Murphy, and we'll see how his opinions may change over time. The number one thing that made me want to join The Good Doctor is the script. I mean, everything starts, so I've been doing this long enough that everything starts with great writing. You know, I was so fortunate last season to be on Homeland, where the writing is spectacular, and the writing on The Good Doctor is just as good, if not better. It's that well written. The characters are that well honed, and so I'm just so proud to be on a show that's this well written. And because at the end of the day, the writing on television is the most important piece of the whole thing. And you could be the greatest actor ever, if the writing's not great, it's not. And, you know, bad acting can mess up good writing, let's be clear. But we're blessed with a great cast that can deliver and great writing that allows us to raise our level, and so it's fantastic. When I watch the pilot, I get emotional, and I know what happens. And because I want to open my heart. And a lot of the stuff we see on the news and other places, you got to close off your heart to it, right? So I hope people take away the idea that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what you look like or what your background is, that you can live your dreams and you can help other people in the process. You don't have to tear someone down to build yourself up, right? And that's what The Good Doctor is. When you think about The Good Doctor, one thing I love about it is that the lead character is a character who is dealing with a condition like autism, right? And you're seeing how they see the world and how they deal with it. But at the same time, the character isn't trying to be this archetypal representation of what all autism is, right? Because it comes in many different shapes and forms, and it impacts people who are on the spectrum in many different ways. And that's what's so brilliant about the show. It gives people a way in to say, hey, we can just have a dialogue about autism, but at the same time, it's not definitive of like, this is the only way that autism impacts somebody. And so I think it lets people in to learn more. I know for a fact that seeing yourself represented, it's very much like an African American. You say to yourself, you know what, I want to see myself and people like me represented on camera. And I'm sure folks who are dealing with those issues feel the same way.
The Good Doctor is a hopeful show. It's an emotional show. It's a show about a very unusual doctor. a young man who wants to be a surgeon who happens to have autism, and the impact he has on all those around him, and his unique view of the world, and his unique view of how we all operate, and his unique view of those around him. And he acts as a catalyst on those around him and makes us better. He's very, very different than Dr. House, but he's also looking at very similar issues. He just has a very different filter towards them. He is looking at why we do the things we do, just as House did. House is constantly asking why people lie. Dr. Murphy, Freddie Highmore's character, asks very similar questions, but comes at them from a very non-cynical point of view, very non-judgmental point of view. He's looking at humanity and asking why humanity is the way it is, but in an innocent way, and ultimately in an uplifting way. Freddie is a tremendous actor, is what he brings most foremost. And we met with him, Seth Gordon and I, the director of the pilot, met with him and just started talking about the character, and he thought of the character the way we did and brought a lot to the discussion, and we were excited to work with him. And then you get there on the first day of shooting, and you see Freddie transform into this character, and you see a character has difficulty with socializing, difficulty expressing emotion. And yet, in Freddie's eyes, we saw a real depth of character. And that's what we wanted. The danger in this character is it becomes flat, and it was never flat with Freddie. We always knew there was a deep and vibrant and troubled and exciting character inside there. Week after week, we have the basic, exciting medical stories that really work well, with exciting, with patients who will emotionally touch us and we will root for and care for, and families. So we've got that going for us. We've got the basic medical stakes and excitement, which really I think my writing team has done some excellent stuff with developing some really cool stories. But beyond that, we have the emotional stories of young people who are dealing with the power of that, and particularly Freddie. The idea that that during the day you are literally saving lives, but you're also just trying to figure out who you are and where you belong in the world. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with that, and a lot of humor, but it's just going to be, I think there's real emotion in this show, real honest emotion. It's not melodramatic, it's not maudlin, but you're gonna cry, and you're gonna feel good. Dr. Sean Murphy's a hero, not like a superhero, not like a hero from an old Western movie, and not an anti-hero, which are so common today. He's a guy who wants to do good things and has challenges and has to rise above those challenges, as we all do. But he is driven to do his best, and he will save lives. He will have setbacks, but he will save lives, and we will love him for it. I really believe that.
The Good Doctor is a story about a young man who is living with autism and his challenges to try and become a doctor at a very competitive teaching hospital. It's one where the other doctors are type A, they're intelligent, they're fierce, and it's about his journey of trying to fit in and find his own place. Frankly, I loved the fact that he was a hero that we could all root for, that he is a hero that we can all root for. So many of the shows that I've been watching on TV feature heroes who make decisions that get in their own way. They have their own obstacles, be they alcoholism or womanizing or things like that. But I love the fact that our main character, Sean, is someone that you can root for 100% because he's actually trying to succeed despite obstacles that he was born with. And it's a very hopeful kind of story. It's one that says we can achieve despite the obstacles that we have in front of us. And I like that. And I also like the fact that, someone who lives with autism is often overlooked. Many of us have had that experience where, we've been excluded or overlooked. And, our show says, take a second look, and you might be surprised by what you find. Freddie is, he's a wonderful young man. He's incredibly generous. He's, as an actor and as a person, you know, I've worked on several TV shows now, and you know, his generosity, his kindness, and his work ethic are among the best that I've ever worked with. Not to mention the fact that he's a fantastic actor. So his performance is poignant. He asks the right questions. He puts in the work, and he sets a great tone. As a minority growing up in this country, I know what it feels like to be overlooked. I know what it feels like to have judgments made about you based on your appearance. And I feel like Sean has suffered those same things. Despite that, he has many things to offer. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us, that, you know, things go way beyond skin deep, and just because someone's quiet in a corner doesn't mean they don't have anything to offer. Most people I know someone who's been touched by autism. And it's, I think, a conversation worth having and worth starting. There's a lot that people with autism offer us in our society, and I don't mind having a show that advocates that.